Complain about bias from big tech. Sometimes it's not what you see online or even on your mobile device, but what you don't see when you're searching for something. We're talking about censorship here, and we have an exclusive story about this administration's plan to fight against search engine manipulation. Our own Emerald Robinson, our White House correspondent, joins us here with information obtained by an anonymous source. Emerald, can you tell us what you've discovered?
Yeah, that's right. This is a Newsmax exclusive. The new executive order called determining the possible impact of big tech companies on the free and fair election has not been announced yet, but it is circulating the White House and to outside consultants. The language of the executive order, which has been viewed by Newsmax, will direct the head of the FTC to establish a nonpartisan panel within the FTC to examine the nature and extent of the threat that big tech companies pose to fair, free, and honest elections in the United States. Now, the report cites a July 2019 hearing on the Hill that was called Google and Censorship Through Search Engines, where experts testified about the novel forms of influence that have arisen during the digital age that is controlled by a relatively few American companies. Now, it also relies heavily on a 2016 study by Dr. Robert Epstein, who found that biased Google results could shift the vote in November by up to 2%, or about 2.6 million votes. Now, in a December 2018 hearing, Representative Jim Jordan questioned Google CEO Sundar Pichai about an effort by employees of the search engine to encourage Latinos to vote in the 2016 election. Jordan read emails from Eliana Murillo, Google's multicultural marketing head, describing Google's effort to turn out the Latino vote in, quote, key states like Nevada and Florida that she said was, quote, important for us. According to the yet-to-be-announced executive order, the panel would look at to what extent news feeds, search suggestions, or search results influence users. The panel will also look into how much content censorship or boosting other content via personal or algorithms impact people's opinions on votes, as well as how much control is automated or manually adjusted by such personnel. The panel would also create a report that is due 90 days from the signing of the executive order, and possible actions like tech fixes and regulations that would be based on the report, just like we saw with the Section 301 tariffs on China. Now, tech bias has been an ongoing conversation in the Trump administration. Several outlets reported last August that the White House had prepared an executive order that was called Protecting Americans from Online Censorship that would give the Federal Communications Commission oversight on how Facebook, Twitter, Google, and other tech companies monitor and manage their social networks. That executive order is still on hold as well.
Wow, a lot. Thank you for that. It's so interesting, this tech censorship conversation, especially during an election year. Right. How likely do you actually think that that something will happen, the president will actually do something about this? Right,
that's a really good question, because I know, Sean, you worked in the White House, so you know how these things sometimes go. We hear about some action that the administration is looking at taking, and it never comes to fruition. Now, I've been talking to sources both within the White House and outside the White House who are advising the team on this, and they say this is really a big priority right now, especially with some of the newer faces that have come into the administration recently who are more concerned about this. You also have Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, who is advocating and appealing to the president to pay more attention to this. Given that we're in an election year, they feel it's very, very important. I'm told this could come down the pipeline fairly soon. Now, of course, we're dealing with the coronavirus crisis, and clearly that's pushing the timelines on some efforts like this within the administration, but it is a priority.
You know, it's interesting. It seems to me that last cycle, the Republicans kind of leapfrogged the Democrats in terms of tech. They really did well on Facebook and Twitter. And immediately after that, you saw all of these folks from big tech come out and talk about restrictions on political advertising. It was almost like we need to figure out how to block them. I think this is crucial, right? For the White House to deal with this, Kevin McCarthy, you mentioned Josh Hawley in the Senate, but Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, has been equally passionate in support of these kind of examinations and restrictions. But big tech has a lot to account for, because it never seems to happen to the other side. It's always the right that seems to pay the price.
That's right, and we keep seeing these undercover videos come out, right, that are released from some of the Google meetings they have in the auditorium. And it's very clear about the ideological
perspective that persists in Silicon Valley and big tech. And now there comes this new term. We talk about the elite, right? We talk about it in perspective to academia, into politics, but now there's a technological elite. And we're dealing with this whole medium, this whole new entity that has such influence on our population, the way we think, our culture, and now the question of how much it influences our elections and democracy altogether. And so it's becoming a bigger conversation, as you said, more so for Republicans, as there's been a lot of conversation with Republicans on how much they're censored on Twitter with their messaging. But it seems like with this election effort, it's a safer sell for the administration to look into, because it is more relevant to the general population, per se, than saying it just looks at how much a conservative commentator is being censored.
Thank you, Emerald. Appreciate your report.
Thanks.
All right. Well, we still have a lot more to come you don't want to miss.
Including how the Democrats are playing politics with the coronavirus. We'll break it down for you when we return.